All right, we'll go ahead and call this work session to order. First item of business is our monthly financial update from Ms. Pickle.
Good evening, commissioners.
Good evening.
This is the financial update through September of 2021, the last month. If you look at the bottom of the first page where we have the revenues, it says that we're about 13% for the year, and we're at 25% of the budget year. This is, again, what we expected. We expected this in August and September, and we'll expect it again for the October update. So we're right on track, actually. We're doing pretty well. And for the expenditures, we're almost on target. So it's about in the middle of the page on the right-hand side. We're at 23% for the general fund, and that's a little bit under, just a tick under the 25% of the budget year. So we're doing really well there. And again, we've had some expenditures that we haven't done the budget amendments for. So whenever we do the budget amendments and they actually are in our system, then I update these columns here for the FY26 budget. And so that will reduce those percentages just a tiny bit as well when we do that. But we plan to bring those to you in the next commission meeting for some of those expenses.
All right.
Are there questions?
Yes, ma'am. Fix my microphone here. As a result of this certified tax rate error from the comptroller's office, from the assessor's office that we've been discussing, as we go forward in the budget, are we going to expect those revenues percentages to start not lining up because those tax bills are not going out for the amount that was intended?
Yes.
Okay.
That'll be more evident in December and January, whenever we typically get the biggest payments from those taxes. So yes,
As a few more months before we start seeing the impact of this on this report.
Correct. Those bills went out on October 1st, and so we wouldn't see the impact of that really because we don't start collecting until November, December along those ways. So right now it's as normal as expected, but yes, we will start to incur these lower revenues coming in.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Vice Mayor. Any other questions? All right. Thank you, Ms. Pickle. Thank you. All right. Our next item of business is a Public Works Department debriefing. Briefing?
After Public Works.
Director Tate, thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon, Commissioner, Mayor.
Good afternoon. Hello.
I laid a copy of this at your seats. The original, sent it a little bit in haste. I had some areas to fill in, and I think I deleted a page somewhere down in the commission goals for implementing the Parks Master Plan. I think I deleted a page in there, so I went back and re-added that, and I had to get some information from Jeffrey to make sure I was accurate on some things. But we'll go through this. I'm not going to bother reading the mission statement, but you can see on the first page, all of our areas of service that the Public Works Department provides. In the second page, our daily objectives. We aim to please the customers, what we aim to do. And that's through being courteous and polite and efficient. And then the next slide, the following slide. Do I have the control? Okay. There we go. Okay. Following slides represent the status of the Red Bank Public Works Department's goals through the first quarter of fiscal year 2026. On this slide here, there's a date change on that very first item, pin 130155. I put November 17th as the bid opening for the Browntown to Gad Road striping contract. It's actually December the 10th is the bid opening date. November 17th was the date that the contractors had to get all of their final questions in so we could provide a response. So December the 10th at 10:05, we'll be opening bids right here in this room for all of the contractors that submitted construction packets. And then from that point on, I've already spoken with one of our local paving companies that tends to get 90% of the work in our region. They asked if we had anything. I told them this was coming up. They've since then seen it on TDOT's website as an open bid. And they're planning to do a lot of paving in our geographical area, Chattanooga, Red Bank. I think Signal Mountain may have some paving going on. And so they're kind of lining that up, and they're saying that if they win the bid, that, you know, they plan to be able to do this in the spring, hopefully in conjunction with our own secondary road paving at the same time. Pin 130563, replacement of the low water bridge. Right now, it's in the right of way and plans process. And this is one of the projects that is pending additional funding from the MPO that they approved for fiscally constrained projects. And I think I didn't put the amount on there, but I think it's around $700,000 that they're contributing to that. Well, I can tell you right here. Next page. Or just shy of $600,000 that they plan to reallocate, but we will not see that money until February 26, I'm sorry. Pin 130774, ADA upgrades from Memorial Drive to Signal Mountain Road. It's in the right of way and the initial design phase. We're working with TDOT to get a couple of obstacles overcome so that hopefully this will be able to go into construction this spring. And then pin 135374, the Red Bank Bike Boulevard. It's in the NEPA survey and right-of-way phase. And, you know, I get almost weekly emails and phone calls from Barge, you know, just pushing the project, you know, prodding us to make a decision about this or how are we going to do that. And so they're staying on top of it. I get more feedback from Barge on this project than all the rest of them combined. So we're glad that they're working for us. The next page. This is just one I threw in. This was a chart that I made that represents all of the additional funding. At the top, you see current TDOT projects with the 4 pins that I just mentioned. And then there's the original project cost estimate. And this was what was federally funded. And in the FY26 funded, this is the MPO rollover funds that they have promised to add to those projects for additional funding. And then you can see future TDOT and city funded projects, Red Bank sidewalk grouping, Memorial Drive, 3R means paving, striping, Easton Avenue 3R bike ped project, and Ashmore Avenue road stabilization. Now, the Ashmore road stabilization will be a city project. It won't be a TDOT project, but the other 3 will. And you can see that they have committed $912,800 to that project, but we won't see that money until FY29. So, you know, we're good right now, but, you know, that gives us a little financial relief having that extra nearly $1 million to put toward that project. And at this point in time, we honestly don't know what it's going to cost to stabilize that road, but it's going to be expensive. And then the other projects, you can see when that funding's allocated, like the Easton 3R bike ped project, $87,000 in FY27, $72,000 in FY28, and $696,000 in 29. So that's how they broke that out. And the mayor, vice mayor can testify that the executive committee approved these costs from the MPO. So, you know, we're just waiting on that, I guess, that piece of paper that says that the money's available for us at this point in time. These are city funded capital projects. All of the other ones were TDOT or federally funded capital projects. These are city funded capital projects. Of course, the Ashmore Slide project being one, and construction to commence hopefully in FY27 with the $912,000 coming in FY29. You know, there's a potential there for us to go ahead and start the project and get it in place, and then wait for that money to come to us. Resurfacing secondary roads, we anticipate releasing and awarding an RFP between now and January with construction, as I mentioned, with the Browntown to Gap paving taking place this spring.
Director, is that based off of the pavement conditioning index that was conducted?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
That and Nate physically driving the roads, you know, not trusting the artificial intelligence that provided that. So he actually drove some of those roads and remeasured and again come up with a conclusion on those. And he has that list of roads that we hope to pave depending on pricing.
Okay.
And right now it looks like we're going to shoot for maybe 13 side roads, but it may be less than that, you know, depending on what the bituminous index is at the time.
Director Tate, how long has it been since we did a project like that? About 5 years?
About 6
6 years?
years.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the last thing we paid was, Morrison Springs Road. Public Works Facility Needs Assessment. I'm in the midst of a, stakeholders input session with all my direct reports, to find out, we kind of went into this, really quickly, but, we hadn't heard from the people that actually are doing the work, or not in great detail. And since then, I've had some new additions to the team, and I've had some people that have been replaced. And so we're kind of backing up a little bit. I hope to engage with Barge in about 2 weeks, then to come up with a new design of what that might look like, because my goal is to include this in the CIP for next budget year, since that is, a top priority, for our CIP. Point Christian Academy School Zone and the pedestrian island safety upgrades that I specified in my budget memo back in May. The equipment has been ordered. We're waiting on those to come in so we can increase the safety in those areas, and then that will lead to more opportunities and other goals. Godfrey Ridge Trail, the Project Diabetes grant was received. Trail plans have been developed. Jeffrey I'll let him speak to that. Where do we stand on the RFP?
The RFP is closed, and right now, members of city staff and our Parks and Recreation Advisory Board are reviewing all submissions. We will have a recommendation after this Thursday's Parks and Rec Advisory Board meeting, which we will bring to commission on Tuesday, November 4th.
Thanks, Jeff. Basketball court, part beside City Hall. We were the recipients of the Leading Into Communities grant, and now we're waiting on plans development and construction to proceed. And you have another update for that?
The RFP is currently out for those designs through construction, and that will close in early November, go through the same process, and then we will bring it to commission in late November, early December.
Thank you. The modifications down at the south end of Signal Mountain Road, the city's required modifications as you approach State Route 8 that was recently paved and striped. We hope to have those wrapped up by November. We're kind of working on the issue with the green paint in the bike lanes. We, at the time that we, put that out there, we didn't realize the cost. And we've gotten one quote back. It's over $53,000 just to paint those little sections of green paint. And so Nate is working to try to find someone that can do it cheaper, and then we'll have to proceed with an RFP. But right now, the State Street Aid doesn't have the funding in the budget to pay that big a cost for that striping. And if you'll notice, Chattanooga did not stripe their portion of it, and probably because of the cost, because theirs would have been significantly higher. So, it's not like we're violating any federal mandates or anything. It's a decision that we have to make. Do we want it? Do we not? Well, as part of our beautification of the city, I think it's important that we do it. It's highly visible, it's pleasing to look at, and it's also safe. So we'll keep working on that. It's just, I was not prepared for the cost that was involved in that.
Director, excuse me, I have a question. And I noticed today, I think they had it on Fraser, but the bigger sections between driving and the cyclist. Excuse me. Can people park there? They do on Fraser, but there's no parking in that area.
No parking in the bike lanes.
Okay, well, no, not in the bike lane, but there's
Yeah.
there's no parking there at all.
No, ma'am.
Okay.
No, ma'am. We don't have room for parking on that side, and it's a state route, I think.
Yeah,
Parking on a
because
state
it
route is
struck
probably-
me as interesting that that looked like what they had on Fraser, where
Mhm.
drivers park on the side between the street and the cycles.
Yeah.
So now I know. Okay, I'm gonna
Yes,
park there.
may I speak that? There, is it okay? It is rather interesting if you're coming down Cherokee, basically in front of Mike's Hole in Wall is a great example. Not that I'm particularly familiar with that, but you have a bike lane tight on the curb. Then you have designated car parking that's offset from the curb, maybe 6 feet. Then you have a lane of travel for vehicles, and sometimes you even have buffer as well, the white hashed part, and it's all going on as you drive down Cherokee. Well, actually, as you drive up Cherokee, headed into Red Bank. As you drive down Cherokee, you don't have much of that mixed bag. But it is interesting how TDOT And the city of Chattanooga decided to incorporate parking as they restriped the geometry of that road. That is not in our, none of our stretch really lent itself to that. If it had, we could consider that in the future, but it's not anything that we have done pretty much based on the reality of our road configuration
Sure.
and local businesses right there. So we do have local businesses at Verizon store,
Mhm.
but they have their own curbside street parking already, so it didn't really lend itself. But thank you for pointing that out. It's fascinating what they've done.
It is. Thank you.
I've got one, excuse me, one quick bike lane question as well. In lieu of paint, could we look into like bollards or some sort of, vertical separation between the lanes of travel for cars and the bike lane? I know they're probably more expensive, but it would sort of lend itself to being more safe for non-vehicle
I'll ask
users.
that question. That would be.
Sure, yeah, even just if they're like those floppy
Yeah,
reflector things.
On the Red Bank side, we can pretty much do what we're going to do, but on the State Route Act, we would have to follow TDOT.
Okay.
They have approved drawings and approved materials. I'm working on another issue with the Bike Boulevard to find out if they will accept a certain type of material. And, it takes time to get an answer from them, but, I can ask that question, but that would be another project that we would have to go into.
Cool.
At this point in time, we're pretty much done except for a little bit of finishing up striping and some signage.
Yeah, I was just thinking if we're going to spend $50,000 on paint, I'd rather spend
Right.
$50,000 on something more protective than paint. Thank you.
Okay, I'll ask that question. Morrison Springs Safety Study, Nate is developing, he's already got developed, I still have to review a scope of work of how we're going to put Jersey barriers. He's not here tonight. How we're going to put Jersey barriers across there to save that intersection. And then we hope to release an RFP for a total project package from start to finish. And that will be coming up hopefully by the end of the year. The next couple of slides are commission goal updates that fall into the city of the Public Works Department's venue. Develop a new land conversion agreement, and Jeffrey and I discussed this, and we agree 75% is a good number.
Yes, sir.
And that's just since July. Well, May, yeah, something like that. But for that commission goal, we estimate the status to be 75% complete. And, just like everything else, we're always waiting on somebody else. The advanced safe streets priority, reducing speeding, improving pedestrian walkability. Staff's currently executing the digital signage to create Point Christian Academy School Zone. And we're soon to release the RFP for the Morrison Springs Day Boulevard study. I calculate that to be around the 50% mark as far as completion. Still, quite a bit of work to do on that. Implement the Parks Master Plan to align with the City Commission's long-term recreation and open space goals. For this slide here, staff goal is to implement short-term goals identified in the Parks Master Plan and the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. Jeffrey and I come up with a calculation of 55%. We've done a lot. There's still a little bit to do for short-term goals. And is there anything you want to address on that, Jeff?
I think bringing on Tegan full-time has helped us achieve some of those, such as growing our active older adults program and giving me more time to focus on some of those administrative short-term goals that will lead into the midterm and the long-term, such as completing the LWCF conversion, which will unlock federal and state recreational grant funding.
Excellent.
Another staff goal under that commission goal was to implement midterm goals identified in the Parks Master Plan. And our current status, we're estimating that to be around 10%. And then the final is to implement the long-term goals, which we're saying 0%, because those two goals require money that wasn't budgeted for this year. So those will be transitioning for next year's budget, and then we'll proceed to implement the full master plan as far as those short, mid, and long-term goals. And I handed you, I'll let a copy of this. Most of you have probably seen it. It's Jeffrey's 2-pager on that very subject. These next slides are staff goal updates. We develop a citywide multi-year paving plan using cost-effective resurfacing methods. And our 1-year goal is to pay $700,000 worth of roads through State Street 8 debt service. And we're currently about 25% with Nate having identified the roads that we're going to pave, and then we'll be proceeding the RFP and the construction. Another staff goal was to update acquire low or zero emission vehicles for daily operations. Currently, the street division and solid waste division have electric vehicles on order. And so as far as what we plan to do this year, we're about the 50% mark, because at this point we have done the procurement process. We're just waiting on the delivery of products. Another slide, department use of budget. The street division, through daily operations, they purchased a new tractor for right-of-way mowing. That's 100% completion. I didn't put anything that was outstanding, such as a dump truck that we're buying at State Street 8. That's at the 50% mark. The truck's been built, but it's being upfitted at this moment. Hopefully we will have it before inclement weather sets in. Fleet division, ongoing daily operations. Randy has achieved 2 of his major purchases by replacement of the tire balancer for the shop and use scan tool software for diagnosing vehicles.
Greg, can I say something?
Sure.
Regarding the fleet goal, I wanted to point out to the commission, we have 100% of our fire apparatus in service right now. And that is a truly extraordinary thing. And Fire Chief, you happy about that?
Yes, sir.
And it reflects on Randy Bell and his fleet team. He has 1 assistant. The focus that Public Works has put on it, the prodding from the fire chief, and the result of all. And also, we've expanded our use of shops downtown. We've factored them in, particularly
Kenworth, Chattanooga.
Kenworth of Chattanooga
And Lee Smith.
and Lee Smith.
Thompson.
Yeah, so I really commend the Public Works Department for this internal service they provide to the other divisions of vehicle maintenance.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Facility division, one of our goals was to implement facility improvements using ARPA funding that had been set aside for facility upgrades. This kept us from having to budget a large sum, as part of the municipal budget, when we had the ARPA money out there, and city manager and Chris and I talked about some of the things that we needed to do at this building and fire stations 1 and 2. And we're just kind of at a 10% right now. We've not really gotten started good on that, waiting for some reimbursements to come in, but we hope to pick up speed in the days ahead. But that is not debt service, or not use of fund balance. That's use of ARPA funds.
Really quick, this might be a question more for you, Ms. Pickle. Is that where most of our remaining ARPA funding is, that's been allocated, still is outstanding?
Yes, that's the majority of it.
Is the facilities? Okay, thank you.
Parks, Trails, and Recreation Division, develop Godsey Ridge Trail RFP pending. I put that at 50% because at this point we're just waiting on the process to mature. I expect there'll be some construction going on probably in the weeks or months ahead.
Once we award on November 4th, we'll go through the contracting process with our city attorney, and we will have then a really good end date for a groundbreaking and for a ribbon cutting for this trail system.
Nothing to stop us now. And part of that is because of the Security of the Project Diabetes Grant, upgrading the program assistant to full-time, 100% satisfaction there all the way around. Develop an annual schedule of parks, trails, and recreation programs. No matter how you look at it, you got to get that 100%, because Jeffrey, I've been talking to the city manager and a couple other people. Why don't you step up here and tell us about your recent trip, conference that you attended, and some of the feedback that you got from some of the other attendees?
People are starting to recognize Red Bank across the state from other professional parks and recreation employees from different municipalities, and the work that we're doing from small events that we've been putting on from other people in Hamilton County, and also for items such as our Project Diabetes Grant, and securing $400,000 of funding of no match to the city.
I just like the fact that when he goes to a conference out of town and people come up and say, "Oh, you're from Red Bank, I've been hearing good stuff about you." That's just a testimony to mainly Jeffrey, but to Tegan also.
Yep.
And that just makes, I'm kind of like a proud parent. So
So Mayor, if I could add.
Sure.
The city has really constructed a very holistic approach to this set of issues. When I first came in 2021, there's a tremendous demand for service in Parks and Rec. And kind of the first bold move was do something bold in pickleball, and look how that's paid off. And then with the last 3 commissions' support, this commission, the previous commission, and 2 commissions ago, we've made investment in the Parks and Rec business line, and it has paid off in spades. You can see it, you can feel it, we can all celebrate it. And more particularly, as you tick off the big things that we've done, the city has provided staff that was adequate to the need in terms of Jeffrey first and then Tegan. We've created the commission-appointed Park and Rec Advisory Board with stacked with community talent. It's truly amazing. I don't know any city in Tennessee has a Parks and Rec Advisory Board that's more on its game with capability and enthusiasm than ours. It's truly remarkable. And it's extremely well led. It's housed within our Public Works Department. And I really want to celebrate that briefly because when they need labor to cut the grass, put down mulch, pick up the trash, that's not done by a distinct parks team. That's done by your Public Works team. And that internal conversation about allocation of resources on an hour-by-hour basis all plays out in Greg's head. With all of his division managers competing for that precious staff resource to do those tasks, whether it's street, stormwater, vehicle maintenance, sanitation, parks, it's all in that mix. And Greg does a great job of balancing that, and Kate, frankly, of managing that every day so that all the divisions housed within Public Works are hitting it out of the park. But I wanted to embarrass Jeffrey just a little bit. He did go to the Tennessee Recreation and Parks Association Annual Conference, and they said lots of good things about Red Bank, and they said lots of good things about Jeffrey. In particular, he received a pin for 2 professional accomplishments. First of all, Jeffrey is a certified playground safety inspector, and he got a pin for that one, which I won't repin him here.
Thank you.
And he also got, I laid on your dais, this is the National Parks and Recreation Association Certified Park and Recreation Professional. And the Tennessee Recreation and Park Association also pinned him for that professional accomplishment as a park professional. So I present to you Jeffrey Grady. Thank you, Mayor.
Congratulations, and
Thank you.
also thank you for your efforts to work to gain those certifications. I know that it takes a lot.
Some studying and a little bit of time consuming and some tests, but happy to do it.
Just in time before the baby was here, so
Yes, just before.
you lined that up perfectly.
Continuing on, solid waste division goals this year mainly centered around service delivery. And, you know, with a few hiccups that we've had this year and some equipment breakdowns and some personnel issues, they managed to keep it all together with a little bit of help from the street department, street division, for staffing. But, you know, you constantly, if you watch the Red Bank Grapevine, you constantly see good comments about what our guys out on the street are doing, particularly John Broyles, the fluffy guy on the brush truck. There's always good comments about him, or just the solid waste services in general. And, I like that. I have not seen a negative comment in many, many months. And that's part of my goal, is to deliver that kind of service. And those folks in solid waste, they knock it out of the park every day. They also purchased 2 EV trucks to get rid of 2 gasoline vehicles. And then we come to the stormwater division. What can you say about stormwater? The smallest division in the whole Public Works Department with the biggest impact all the way around. One of our goals for this year was to adopt and activate the stormwater asset management plan. And I put that at a 25%. And that was solely based on September the 29th. That was the day that we brought Lewis Brill on board. And since then, he's come into my office several times talking about watershed issues and things that I'm like, but he has made it his goal to study the stormwater asset management plan and then develop his program, how he's going to run that stormwater division based on that so that we can continue to meet that commission goal of improving our stormwater capacity. Improved drainage system maintenance, he's also had an impact on that because he comes and talks to me about drainage issues and finds, if I have any information, because he's developing plans. Every day, he's developing plans for stormwater. He's also working to enhance public education on stormwater. I don't know how many of you saw the social media posts about it draining to the river. That was a Lewis post for his normal scheduled posting. Implement flood mitigation projects in high-risk areas through resident participation and with the division's online service request is an ongoing daily service. And upon adoption of the stormwater asset management plan, commence the execution of the city's first stormwater utility and maintenance SOP. Now, how's that different from the asset management plan? It tells us how we're going to maintain it. It doesn't tell us we have a stormwater utility, but it tells us what we need to do to maintain it. And that's going to be where we get down into the weeds with daily service and hands-on operations. And Commissioners, that will conclude my presentation.
Wow, that's a lot for just the first quarter.
First quarter.
And a lot still to come. Thank you for that wonderful presentation. Do we have any questions, other questions?
I had a question.
Yes, ma'am.
The low water, you said has to wait until late into 26 or 27, the bridge.
That funding will be available this year, but not until February.
Okay. I noticed it got not hit again. Yeah.
Yeah, we put up some few safety countermeasures up there, just to warn people that there was some damage to it. So nothing that can be fixed with a Band-Aid and concrete.
Right.
But the bridge is stable.
Okay, excuse me, I did have the Morrison Springs safety study. Is that Morrison Springs Road or?
That's the Morrison Springs Dayton Boulevard intersection where the cars that run through the intersection. They're
And
coming
the
off
jerseys.
Morrison Springs.
Yes,
Jersey.
barriers. Okay, thank you.
That's fair.
Yeah, I just wanted to revisit the stormwater asset management plan. That's one of my favorite outlays for our ARPA funds that we did.
Yes.
I'm really excited about that investment that we made to finally map our stormwater system. And now I'm really excited to hear that we have a staff member who is dedicated to owning that,
Right.
because that beautiful map doesn't do us any good if we're not acting on it. And so having somebody who's really focused in on, turning that map into a plan for action is very exciting.
Very exciting.
And that's not to say that the 3 crew members that are part of that team have not been working and doing fantastic work, but now they have someone to focus their efforts into a meaningful outcome.
Fantastic.
Thank you for that.
Thank you, Director. All right, we will move on to item 3 on our consent agenda, approve interlocal agreement with the City of Chattanooga for Stringers Ridge, resolution number 25-1852. Mr. Gravy.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, Commission. Tonight, I'm excited to bring forward a resolution authorizing the City of Red Bank to enter into an interlocal agreement with the City of Chattanooga for the joint management, maintenance, and improvement of the Stringers Ridge Trail System. Stringers Ridge is an amazing natural and recreational resource that serves both the Red Bank and Chattanooga communities. It provides trail access, scenic views, and opportunities for outdoor recreation that our residents and visitors enjoy every day. While parts of the trail system fall within different city limits, users don't experience it that way. They simply expect the entire system to be open and well maintained. This agreement is about collaboration and shared responsibility. It formalizes how the 2 cities will communicate, plan, and coordinate work at Stringers Ridge, ensuring consistency and care across the entire trail system. It sets expectations for maintenance, event coordination, and grant opportunities while giving both cities flexibility to partner with third-party organizations when needed. For example, if neither of the cities have a dedicated trail crew and we need to bring in a third party, it allows us to easily jointly bring on a third-party crew. Instead of, if Red Bank brings one on, they have to worry about where the line of the city ends and having to worry about different insurances. This gives us that quicker rise to action when we have emergencies such as the fires from earlier this year. Importantly, this agreement does not commit Red Bank to any specific dollar amount. Each city remains responsible for maintenance within its own boundaries, such as trimming back bushes, trees that are coming down, things like that, but opens up communication and collaboration for larger projects, such as the fire, if there's large erosions or other emergency events. It simply provides a framework for working together more efficiently. It's about keeping the lines of communication open and making sure that when issues arise, we can address them quickly and in partnership. This resolution is an exciting step forward that shows both cities' commitment to protecting and enhancing a shared community asset. Stringer's Ridge is one of the most unique outdoor destinations in our region, and this partnership ensures it remains open and well cared for now and for years to come. Does the commission have any questions?
I don't.
No.
Questions?
I would
Thanks
like
for-
to just add that the city of Red Bank also did a letter of commitment for Project Diabetes for the city of Chattanooga. They were also awarded, and that money will all be going towards Stringer's Ridge. So this interlocal agreement will help have those funds allocated for projects on all of Stringer's Ridge.
Excellent. Cool. Teamwork.
How much was theirs? Do you care to share?
I'm not 100% sure, but in the same range.
Excellent.
Yeah, this is very great. I know I've talked to the folks at Sorba a good bit, and having an MOU in place kind of like this is one of the major hurdles. And there are so many trail users there that it almost gets loved to death. So,
That's a good way of putting it.
so yeah, this is really a positive step. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Grady. Moving on to item 4, also on the consent agenda, appoint Barbara Autry to the Festival Advisory Board. Resolution number 25-1853.
Mayor, we are going to table that, if that is all right,
Okay.
until the next commission meeting.
Okay. All right. Will we have to do that formally during the commission meeting? Yes. Okay.
Yeah, just combination.
Okay. For the next commission meeting. Okay. Which is November 4th.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Gravy. All right, moving on to item 5 on the consent agenda, approve and adopt the human resources policy, resolution number 25-1854. Director Perry.
This policy is basically just to lay the groundwork for the Human Resources Department, which we have not had officially until the last 3 years. It mirrors what's in our employee handbook, it just reemphasizes just the human resources aspects. I can answer any questions, but I don't really want to tell you more than that.
Okay. This is just kind of standard practice. Okay. Any questions from Ms. Perry?
Yes, please. Would this be included in the handbook?
No, we are creating a separate policy book
Okay,
that anything that's in here that the employee handbook references, because they see the policy book. It's still an ongoing process, but it's available to all of our employees.
thank you.
All right. Okay, thank you. Moving on to item 6, authorization to submit a letter of intent to submit an application to the Tennessee Downtowns Program through the Tennessee Department of Economic and Community Development for a matching grant in an amount of up to $15,000 for fiscal year 27. Mr. Graham.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. I'm going to do my best to stand in for Leslie, who fell ill this afternoon and had to go home. I want to orient you to what's in your packet, your work session packet. There is 2 documents, and the first one is on page 3249, and it is a brochure on the Tennessee Downtowns program itself. And there's just sort of a a couple of overarching points I want to highlight about the program. First of all, the Tennessee Downtowns is an affiliate program of the Tennessee Main Street program. A lot of people have heard about the Tennessee Main Street program. The Tennessee Main Street program itself is a coordinating partner of the National Main Street Center. So this is kind of a beginning step towards a Tennessee Main Street program. This program, in fact, let me go back to my task to orient you what's in the packet. So there's a couple of pages there of very good reading materials on the Tennessee Downtowns program. There's a Q&A on page 37, which will answer most questions about it. What we're really after tonight, and specifically, is a consensus of the commission that the mayor can sign a letter of intent, and that sample letter is on page 39, and it's very succinct. It says, "We intend to apply," and that puts the Tennessee Downtowns program on notice that we're interested, and that is part of the Tennessee Department of Economic and Community Development. So this is basically your community development department partnering up with its sisters and brothers at the state level and bringing that program into Red Bank. So we're after consensus. I will also point out that on page, page 42 of 49 is a larger information brochure on the Main Street America program. And that's sort of the big program. Then you have Tennessee Downtowns program they're all sort of feeding into that revitalization of cities, urban core, downtowns. And I will add that this is particularly focused not so much on what the city is going to do. The city really becomes a facilitator. This is really focused on what the businesses and property owners can band together and do collectively for their own business district. And Leslie is basically positioning the city to help those business owners participate. So the first step was to find out who's interested. And I want to thank Commissioner Holmes. Commissioner Holmes attended the invitation for lunch that Leslie sent out to all the businesses in the district. And here on the table, I have a geographic representation of this district. And it's more or less what we've been talking about for years as our central business district. But here it is specifically outlined. And so there's a geographic boundary to this. And there's businesses and properties that are within that. All those businesses and properties were invited to lunch with Leslie and Commissioner Holmes and having a conversation. Who's interested in participating? We have 5, and I will share those with you. Chris Wood from Be Caffeinated, Victoria Capdeville from Bread and Butter, Peggy Rowe from Vintage and More, Jennifer Amato from All About the Bride, Tiffany Bratton and Sasha Posada from Puppy Cut. And so those are our initial cadre, but Leslie is confident that that membership will grow, and especially if Red Bank is formally admitted into this program. So again, what we're after tonight is just a consensus that we want to do this, consensus that we're all comfortable with the mayor signing this intent to apply, and that's really the first step. Well, the second step. First step was get businesses interested. We found that, and now it would be the intent. And just a reminder, with a lot of state grants, they've moved to this intent to apply phase, which is supposed to be a low barrier to self-identify and assure the state that you will meet all the requirements of the grant without having to actually do that. So we're at that stage where we're just going to tell the state we're interested. We feel like we meet all the requirements of the grant, and then they give us the heads up that, okay, we think this is going to work. Then we go formally apply, and that's quite a bit of staff effort, and in this case, business and community effort. And that will come back to you for a formal resolution to formally apply. But by the time we get to that point, it's all but a done deal that we're in the program. How did I do there?
Excellent.
Thank you.
This is a 2-year program, and you said it ends in the $15,000 grant.
Yes.
That we can then offer as like micro grants, basically, to our small business community.
I'm not actually sure how that plays
Is-
out, and perhaps Commissioner Holmes knows.
It's more of a overall project. So you have to say what you would use the 15,000, and it's a matching, so it'll be 30 total.
Okay.
And then what would the whole project be? So it could be a number of different things. It doesn't have to be specifically to one business. It could be all like down by meant to be bridal.
Mhm.
Like if you wanted to redo the outside of it or something on the sidewalks, like it's to bring businesses more together.
I think it can be, my understanding, it could be used for like facade improvements and things like that, but it can be at different parts of the downtown district, right? Okay,
Like
awesome.
aesthetic upgrades, unifying flags or banners,
Mhm.
that sort of thing.
And I think viewing it more strategically, it's beginning to get the businesses and the cities in this footprint working together
Mhm.
with an eye not only for these short-term things, but a long-term vision
Mhm.
of a partnership and where do we really want downtown Red Bank to be for the next generation.
Wonderful. Thank you. Any questions?
I'll wait and ask Director Slay, but I do appreciate the 8 principles, and one of those is self-help. This is ours. Those 5 plus others will develop this, and it'll be ours to own.
Thank you, Commissioner. And if I'm going to do Leslie any justice, she would really emphasize the self-help piece. The businesses taking ownership of their business area in partnership with the city. But this whole intent really is to put this grouping of businesses on point on a variety of issues. And the city plays a supporting and facilitating role.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. And is it okay to assume we got consensus?
Yes.
Okay.
I think so.
Thank you, Mayor.
Any
Thank you, Commissioner.
opposition? Okay.
And thank you, Commissioner Holmes.
So we will now move on to, we'll have to temporarily table potentially the discussion on the certified tax rate paper, move on to citizen comments on items on the work session agenda. And if we have time, perhaps we can come back to that. Mr. Branham.
Thank you, Mayor. This is the time for citizen comments. Please observe these rules. Comments are limited to 2 minutes here in work session or less, and the city recorder will operate a timer. If time expires, please respect her direction and conclude any comments. Comments should be addressed to the board as a whole and not to a particular commissioner or to city staff or to the audience. The commission is here to listen, not to respond or engage in back and forth, so please do not expect a reply during citizen comment. Citizens are now invited to the podium. Please begin by stating your name and address.
Commission.
Good evening.
Let's knock that over. Thank you for the opportunity to speak again. I wanted to, congratulate Public Works and Parks and Rec. I had looked over some of the materials that were in the presentation material, and although there are a lot of challenges that have come up for the city, I think that re-emphasizing the words of Martin and that it's truly remarkable what is still being accomplished and will be accomplished is really, really awesome. And super, super proud of the community and the team and folks here that all make that happen. With regard to the TN downtown program, cross fingers, that's awesome. I cannot wait to see how many people jump on that, and I do hope that genuinely that does have people outside the city of Red Bank to consider to expand their business or start their businesses in Red Bank itself. And then finally, I had a comment that was, or a question, I guess, generally for the commission, which is if there have been any updates since the special session. Thank you all very much for being so diligent about calling that regarding the tax piece. I'm going to try and give you all as much time as you can to speak on it, but if there's specifically been any updates since the State Board of Equalization met on Monday that the assessor said, Marty Haynes said that he would be attending and that he may have some feedback about that. Also, just as a side note, only because I had left a message with the state representatives in state senator's office, if you all had any sort of communication with the city from those two offices as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bullard. Right. Any other comments? Okay, if not, is everyone okay with us returning to item 7, the discussion only on our certified tax rate, continued discussion? Mr. Granum?
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners, and mindful of 9 minutes, I will begin with a question. How did we get here? So I provided this 2-page front and back, and there's copies there, there's copies on our website, it's in the packet. I'd like to begin at the end, the bottom of page 2, with a beginning comment. Property tax is a profoundly complex means to fund public services, and the reappraisal process complicates it by an order of magnitude every 4 years. Perhaps process changes from the assessor of property and or the legislature might be helpful for all concerned. So back to the, in fact, I'll just keep going backwards to orient you to this paper. Next up, under additional info, there is a link to the YouTube for our special called session of last Tuesday, which was very good. If you invest an hour and make it through that, you really hear from all parties. There's some good local media coverage as well. The News Channel 9 piece that came out last week was very good. There was comments from really all the players, but all the local media outlets covered it. 3, 9, 12, Times Free Press. There's a lot out there, and I've looked at it all, and generally it's all quite accurate. So go to your favorite news source and read up. In the middle of that second page analysis, we will come back to this, but I'll just point out that Tracy has up here the graphic, and we'll come back to that graphic. This really all boils it down to numbers. So I'll come back to that, but leave it up, please, Tracy. The top of the back page, we talk about establishing the levy. That was its own process and its own series of meetings and its own ordinance. Now on the front page, there was the budget process, and it was its own series of meetings and its own ordinance. And then at the top of that front page was the reappraisal process, which runs the state process, multiple counties, multiple players. And then back up at the top of that front page, I'll begin to work my way back down through it. So the purpose of this paper was to succinctly establish the facts regarding the incorrect certified tax rate, or CTR, provided to the city of Red Bank to understand its impact on the current property tax levy and establish the level of revenue shortfall. Calendar year 2025 reappraisal process. Some things I want to highlight there. Upon completion of a reappraisal, the assessor of property is required by state law to calculate a new certified tax rate for each local government. This rate must be revenue neutral, meaning it should generate the same total property tax revenue as before the reappraisal. In that second bullet, Red Bank was presented with the certified tax rate of 0.8968 by the assessor of property and the State Board of Equalization on 4 June and 20 June respectively. Those were not presented to us for reevaluation. They were presented to us as statements of fact, and my signature on that document acknowledged receipt of that fact. That's what my signature meant. So there's a lot of question about what my signature meant. My signature meant the assessor of property handed it to me, I signed it, and that was proof that the city of Red Bank had been formally notified of the statement of fact that our revenue neutral certified tax rate was 0.8968. The magnitude of the mistake, unfortunately, is $914,603. And that is the difference between the incorrect certified tax rate revenue proceeds and the correct certified tax rate, which is 1.0775. And those proceeds that it would generate. So subsequently, we have been notified, although there's no signature on any paper yet, but we have been provided calculations, recalculated, that the certified tax rate is actually 1.0775, or basically $1.08. Went from essentially 90 cents to $1.08. Skipping down to the next part of the FY26 budget process. Because we were in a reappraisal process, the comptroller has a lot of guidance around this. It says you can do the budget process and just talk about revenue dollars. So we didn't talk about a tax levy or a tax rate. We didn't toss around numbers like 0.8968 or 1.0775 or 0.98. We didn't talk that language at all. We talked dollars of property tax revenue. And so the budget process did not focus on the levy itself. It focused on the revenues that would come that the city needed and that the commission was going to tax by property taxes. Skipping to the top of the second page, where we talk about establishing the tax levy. So at this point, the budget process has played out. We've established the revenue that we need. The reappraisal process has played out. The certified tax rate for revenue neutral levy has been established. Now we enter into the process to establish our levy for Red Bank. The entire levy conversation was predicated on the established fact that the revenue neutral certified tax rate was 0.8968. Therefore, a levy increase from the certified tax rate of 0.8968 to the higher 0.98 was discussed as a tax increase. And the ensuing process to establish the levy also incorporated the dynamics of a tax increase. What is now understood is a levy of 0.98 is in fact a tax decrease. And we'll get to that when we talk about those numbers.
We do have only about 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you, Mary. The projected property tax proceeds with a levy of 0.98 is $4,960,214. This is a loss of $762,286. So I'll now turn to this graphic and explain all those numbers really can be seen here at a glance. So the numbers from the top in the green, that's what we budgeted in terms of revenue in our budget process. We said we needed $5,722,500. The number below it in yellow is now what we understand the correct certified tax rate of 1.0775 would yield. It's $5,453,000, but that's not what we adopted. The actual 24 revenue we collected, which is the last audited, empirically experienced number, was $5,260,982. The proceeds we now understand we will get from the adopted levy of 0.98 is $4,960,000. And then their very bottom is what we stand to get from the adopted, what we would have gotten, from the original incorrect certified tax rate. That would have yielded $4,539,000. So now all these numbers that are tossed around in the media, the $914,000 really characterizes the difference between the incorrect and the correct certified tax rate, and what those different levies would have produced in our taxes. The next number over, the $762,000, that's what we're going to experience as a budget shortfall. We budgeted $5,722,000. We're actually going to get $4,960,000. So that's the difference that we're short this year. The next number over, the $493,000, that is the difference between, let me make sure I get this right, the recalculated revenue neutral 1.0775 would have yielded $5,453,000, and that's $493,000 more than what we stand to get. So if we just simply adopted the correct certified tax rate, we would be getting $493,000 more. But lastly, the $376,000 number is the difference between what we are going to collect of 4.9 million and what we got 2 years ago of 5.2 million. So there's all kinds of numbers, and hopefully this graphic allows people who want to compare this to the other to do it in an accurate way. Mayor, thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Granum. I know that was hard to kind of work through, and time does not allow us to have any discussion on this at this time. But we will continue to have discussions on this at, coming commission meetings, as we get updates specifically around maybe some of the information Mr. Bullard brought up in his comment. and any other information that we get along the way.
Thank you, Mayor. And I'll just simply say, I had not heard from the assessor of property, but I know he went and I'm certainly intends to get back to me. And for my part, I do intend to have a conversation with Senator Watson and Representative Renault, perhaps Senator Gardenhire, our legislative delegation. Because if we pointed out, there are mistakes all around the state. And there's one entire county where their entire appraisal process was just astonishingly, frankly, condemned by the comptroller today. So there's problems statewide with this whole issue of reappraisal process, and I hopefully the legislature will take a hard look at it.
Thank you, sir. All right, do we need a moment to take a bathroom break, or are we okay to move straight in? Okay.
I would like to make comments during the commission meeting about this.
Okay, well, you can do that during your commissioner's
During the
report.
report? Okay, all right, thank you.
All right, we'll go ahead and adjourn this work session.